second challenge that trade unions face in Asia today would be the increasing trend towards repressive and authoritarian regimes in Asia, which are hostile to workers' rights. In many parts of Asia, for example, we see governments, the state itself, enacting laws that repress the exercise of the rights of workers. And this we can see, for example, in Cambodia, in India, in Thailand, and in Bangladesh. Another challenge unions face in Asia is the expansion of global value chains. Asia has a very high participation rate in global value chains, and in fact, of the 25 top developing country exporters, over half are from Asia. And what is not good about the global value chains as far as workers and trade unions are concerned is that these global value chains have the capacity to put pressure on wages and working conditions, and this is done via the suppliers engaging or employing non-standard workers. These are workers who have temporary jobs, who do not have a direct or subordinate employment relationship. Now, the third challenge could be, and this is also related to, the contribution of global value chains in the increase in non-standard forms of employment, is also the rise of non-standard forms of employment, which are largely precarious, in Asia. And in fact, over 50% of temporary workers, it is said, according to an ILO study, are temp workers or temporary workers in Vietnam, Pakistan, and Cambodia. And in some countries in Asia, they are significant in proportion. For example, 1 in 4, both in Indonesia and the Philippines. To give an example, in Cambodia, you have the trade union activists, particularly, and leaders, particularly those who are classified as independent trade unions, and those that are somehow linked or supportive with the opposition party, which has been abolished by the Supreme Court last year, being subjected to judicial harassment, and they have been prosecuted, and some of them are even detained, and many are fled the country for fear of being incarcerated should they be arrested by the state or the government. So that's one, and this has somehow impacted on the mobilizing power of trade unions, even at the factory level. In Cambodia, still you have in terms of the non-standard workers, many factories employ workers on fixed duration contracts, or what they call FDCs. And these FDCs, in a way, prevent workers on fixed duration contracts to become trade union members, because there is again a state law or a law in Cambodia that you need at least 2 years or over 2 years to employ before you can become, a trade union leader. And so this has affected even the stability of leadership of trade unions in factories where you have many workers on fixed duration contracts. I think what is important is for trade unions to continue strengthening their associational power. And this can be manifested through trade unions more robustly engaging in organizing non-standard workers and even informal workers. And in fact, this has been one of the expression of union renewal of trade unions, not only in the developing world, but in the developed world as well. But not necessarily organizing trade unions, workers into trade unions. There are other forms of representation models. They can be, for example, in the Philippines, they can be organized into what we call workers' association, or cooperatives. And organizing these workers is a stepping stone towards, transitioning them from a condition of precarity to a condition of protection, or what we call protected employment. And representation may also be complemented by trade unions engaging in strengthening the regulation on the use of non-standard workers. This is what happened in Indonesia in October 2012. 3 national unions, they mobilized about 3 million people in Jakarta. And they are demanding the government to prohibit outsourcing beyond 5 allowable areas like cleaning, catering services for employees, security, support services in the mining and oil sector, and transportation services for employees. And this huge mobilization in October 2012 resulted in the passage of a regulation, which they call the Manpower Regulation Number 19, Conditions for Outsourcing, a month after, so in November 2012. And this limited the outsourcing to the 5 areas I just mentioned. So as you can see how, for example, the combination of associational power can lead to, an expression of structural power, and then of course the achievement of institutional power via the regulation as a way to limit, the use of non-standard forms of employment.